why is that? I believe it's because people that have success in tech care much more about building community than most other industries do. I mean, look, there's cybersecurity industry here in San Antonio that's pretty big, so people tell me. You know, I mean, I don't, you know, I don't see it or feel it. I mean, so, I don't know, but I think it's the Grahams of the world and the Blues of the world and the Zackers that here in San Antonio.
Michael Girdley's?
Yeah, Girdley, you know, and just the very tech-oriented people that seem to be driving most of it. And I don't know why that is. I mean, I think people like to collaborate with each other.
It's more important. I mean,
it probably is more important. Right? It's less secretive. Like a lot of what software tech entrepreneurs are working on. Like you don't. If you're building a software tech company and you're scared to tell somebody what you're working on, like you're probably being too secretive. Like that's just not the way the tech world works. It's very open, very collaborative. I don't know. You can go to any of these other tech cities, whatever it is. I don't know what they figured out. They all collaborate. They work together. There's a helpful mentality.
Obviously, I agree with Lorenzo. I love what he's doing. I think our distribution is critical. I'm actually lost in transplant. It came up here to solve problems. And we can say it's area. Austin markets are more saturated. I'm a Harvard. I'm a West Carolina. I like the West Stars. It's South Stars. Here's how. San Antonio's fine. I think this is the issue. There's no reason why people are going to ask again, what was that doing, especially this new one, which is a generalized to the top community. You're on an idea, try an idea, foster new culture, try to foster new culture, and we're going to pay for it. Like, you can set up right there in some other area of communities, but it's that community. Even though they have nothing to do with it, just by having the community that was set up, they're just create that ecosystem. You already have some kind of our culture, our organization, very community that now needs to work right there. My question is, I also, just heard speaking against this, and I think cybersecurity is the first thing for the city trying to bring in. I think people up here don't feel that it's doing well. You don't want to see it feel it. No, it's not, and it doesn't create collaboration. I know we're military, go. But I think part of us is merge VR is what I love. Merge VR should be the poster child of the same thing we bring. Because we are different than seven. And so, we talked about this, I think we are. And there's nothing to do with devices, things like IoT and embedded devices. And I think that's what's so critical, so amazing when we build this. We have a culture. We have import people. Any start from an acquirer, start from investors, you import people, and they can, especially if you're a good CEO, it's going to fail. The culture's going to fail. The culture thinks so. How do you see us, right?
No. I'm loving what you're saying.
I agree with that. I know that's why I love.
No, so look,
I
think
these things. We're not getting this whole culture. We're missing out our high potential games. We can't create a poster child with merge. We can't create a poster child with cybersecurity. So
look, do you mind, Pat, if we go down the cyber thing? Because I have a lot of strong thoughts about it. So here's a couple things, the pro and con of cyber. So it's definitely a niche that I hear about, right? I don't know anything about that world, right? I'm sure my credit score would prohibit me from participating in cyber. Right? But I think that what I've seen of the San Antonio cyber world is very specific in that the people that exit the 21st or whatever it is, or the big NSA entities that are here are actually completely different than everybody in this room. Your dress code's different, your mentality is different, your chain of command, right? It's not decentralized, it's very hierarchical. And so if you read, there's a great book called Startup Nation that talked about how the Israeli government just kickstarted their economy. And the first person they went after, we talked about this, were Jewish mothers. And they said, dear Jewish mothers, please stop telling your kids to go to school and get a job. We need you to tell all your kids to go to school and create a company, right? If you don't do that, you are not helping our country. And I think that what happens is nobody tells these guys that come out of the military, you should take your knowledge and you should create a product. They're actually leaving with really no guidance. And so they're there, they come into our ecosystem, and all of a sudden they see me who's dressed kind of like a homeless guy, and they're like, this is a completely different world to them. And so I feel like there's no real community infrastructure for them. And also I think that the evolution of cyber is all consultancy shops first, whereas you feel like you need a lot of product-based. I think that the next wave of cyber is going to be someone needs to create a product, or a lot of products, that make the world better from the cybersecurity. And then on top of that, you don't have the Pat Matthews of the cyber world that have gone through the entire startup cycle exited and become heroes now. And there's someone that I aspire to look up to, and like there's a lot of guys doing it in there. And so I just feel like it's kind of a fragmented ecosystem. I don't know.
Very fragmented. No, she's very fragmented, I agree.
It's counterculture, it's counterculture to the culture. But there is military, though. I'm a former Marine, I'm a former U.S. I was a professional face worker for a congressman that was head of waste management and fishery question. So I have a military background, I have a government background, but I'm an engineer. So engineer mindsets, and we have that military base on here. That's why I think the hardware, I don't know what the devices, that will not change culture. So those military people, get military out there, they're very cybersecurity. They're going to speak that chain of command, they're speak that high, they're going to speak the very structured vision. Whereas engineers do not speak to that. Right. Full potential for the military. You don't have to be responsible for culture. You think that's something we have? You think that, well, I don't know, I'm curious, why did not Makers Labs, other thing out here?
Well, so many questions. No. I mean, I'll say that the caveat for me specifically is that when I talk about the cyber world, just keep in mind that I'm a kind of brown guy from the inner city that doesn't know anything about cyber. So that's my, I'm talking about an ecosystem that I have not studied and know very little about. And so whenever I look at initiatives around it in makerspaces, I'm always looking for a champion or a maven that can advise me on these things. You take Maker Mark right here. I think he's the maker, in San Antonio, and I think you need champions like him in these other industries that lead the charge, like he's done with Geek Bus and other initiatives to say, hey, what's our part to play? And also, I feel like when you're city building, there's two types of people. There are the you should do's and the I'm gonna do's. Right? You're an I'm gonna do guy. The you should do guys are people go, you know what Graham should do? Graham should do this, and he should build this, and he should do it, and he should fund it all. And that person says, I want to assume no risk, I want to consume from it, and I want you to do it all. Versus Michael Girdley says, I'm going to create a fund called the Geeky Fund, and I'm going to raise $3 million. Do you want to participate or not? Hey baby, all day long. And I think that it's really, a lot of it is kind of deputizing people to say, be one of the people that says, I'm going to do it. Right? Because there's so many, I'm sure Pat gets to, there's so many people that have, you should do this and you should do that. And so when it comes to the cyber world and the maker spaces, I think the maker kind of movement is a little bit more evolved. It's not much, it's not where we want to be, but it's more evolved than something like cyber, I'd say, because you got guys like Mark figuring it out every day, trying to figure it out. So. All right, let's take, is there anybody this side? There's no love coming from this side.
We're just watching.
One thing I want to say is that the best way to help the city is to spend your money down here. And so there's a lot of shops I'm seeing like close up and leave that I thought were really good, and they're still leaving. That's a real shame. There's a fantastic French place on Broadway Street. It has the best baguettes you get in San Antonio.
Here we go. Boom.
If either you could give your younger self advice now, what would you
That's
say?
it.
If I could give my younger self advice, you want to take that one first? I mean, like, I feel like there's so much. Like, I would A, punch that guy in the face. And be like, you don't know anything. I'd probably say read more, a lot more. You know what I would do? I would tell 23-year-old Lorenzo, go get your own personal board of directors right now. Go build a board of people that can advise you, that are more discerning than you. When you will, because you will inevitably hit a point where you have to make a decision, there's just no rule book for it. And if you don't have your own kind of board of advisors, you're just going to get stuck. And even if it, for me, I had two guys that I went to high school with that are just smarter than I am. And I feel like I would have stacked the deck more sooner if I could.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good answer. I mean, I think, always, I wish I was as well read and could quote as many books.
I'm overcompensating.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think I would just say, I like the idea of getting, as many advisors as you can, reading as many books, just, soak it all up, learn from different perspectives.
There you go.
It's not this, if I had like 5 minutes to chew on that, probably be a better answer.
Yeah, I feel like,
That's what you get for now.
It's like gun to my head, that's the quick. Like, what would I tell my nephews? Other than don't rack up debt in college. What up? Donner, you got one, right?
So it was kind of a follow-up with that, because I mean, it's going back to kind of the culture
I guess what it seems like, we're talking with like Orange PR and Swery and a lot of these things, San Antonio's talent, because like going back to importing talent, San Antonio's talent seems to be in pillars, but it has incredible depth. You know, the talent in the financial world around here is incredible. Not just USAA, but US Global Investors, Frost Bank, there's a lot of them. Oil and gas, military, cyber. And so like, we have all this depth, and I feel like I totally agree with what you're saying. You know, it's really hard with the geography issue and getting people to collaborate. But I almost feel like if we had two angles going at once, where we're trying to connect pillar to pillar to pillar, as well as what you guys keep talking about with the other stuff. Because San Antonio has these structures that are like vertical, and Austin is very breadth. You know, it's all about that collaboration. But if you think about it, it's like a horizontal platform.
Yeah.
Part of why that platform is not bad, this is my belief, but I think tech reinvents every single one of those verticals you talked about. Tech is reinventing finance. Tech is reinventing, it's going to reinvent oil and gas. I mean, somebody has to. Like, you know, I mean, so, I don't know, man. I mean,
you know, that's actually my point, is how do we get those people inspired to reinvent their pillar instead of trying to get into broad collaboration? Like, I mean, if we get that positive feedback loop into, you know, guys at Swery who have PhDs in material science and connect with business person, you know, like, you got all these pillars that if we get this little microcosm, but like what you're doing to keep them in a broader sense.
Well, I think I'm going to give you a really cheesy answer, and I apologize, but I think to me it comes. There's a huge part about creating heroes, and so what you want is I want some guy or gal working at Frost Bank right now who's in the machine of Frost Bank going, oh, this one part of my job could be automated. If I could just write the script that did this thing, I could sell this product back to Frost Bank. And right now, in our ecosystem, that's kind of a crazy alien concept. Whereas you want the person that's in USA or in these big silos to go, hey, that dude Pat Matthews did it, and I want to be like him. And I want to be like Merge, and I want to be like these other people, and so I'm going to take the risk because there's community and it's less risky. I'm not going to be crazy, even though you're kind of crazy for doing it, right? And so I think that when someone can look over the fence and see, I'm not going to be the only one doing it, it becomes a little less risky.
Well, one thing I would say, this might go back to, since I've had this 5 minutes. You know, I go against the grain of this like conversation a lot, in the sense that like, I don't think everybody needs to be an entrepreneur. You know, like, I mean, so if I'm giving it to my younger self or my kid, I mean, it's better like to frame it as like not myself. Like, I just think people need to think about what they really want to do. I mean, it's not like entrepreneur, you're cool, everything else you're a loser. I mean, like, look, there's